Hello and welcome back to the Open Resourcery. So, today we are continuing our series of Magic 101 and we are diving into meditations. So, here I have several friends with me today. Of course, I've got Twisted,
Yo,
I've got a good friend of ours, Light,
Hello.
and then we have Dunster.
That's me. Hello.
And we are all going to be speaking on meditation. Now, as Twisted has stated, this is capturing lightning in a bottle from a group of friends that we were having a really good conversation. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and start with Dunster. Since I said your name last, you're first. All right, meditations. What's your take on them?
Okay. So, meditations are really good in terms of reflecting back on what you've experienced throughout the day and just grounding yourself in general. Uh, Mostly today is like beginning stuff, right? Beginner stuff.
Yes.
So, we won't be going too deep into that. But for any beginners that don't do meditation, even just a simple 5 minutes a day is great.
Absolutely. How about Light? What are your takes on meditation in the very beginning stages?
Well, since he went with the present talk on it, or the past talk on it, I will go with the present. It's very good to understand yourself in the moment. Um, it's it's very good to like learn more about yourself and how you're feeling, what you're doing, like what is your thoughts in this current moment. And you can kind of learn more about yourself in that right.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's all good.
I really should have taken notes
just
because I was gonna
whatever
go
comes to mind,
past
bro.
and
Whatever
then
comes to mind.
But let's see. So from understanding yourself in the moment, you can learn certain things that you can actually grow upon, and everything in the present is also affected by the past. If you can learn how to let go of the past in the present moment, it actually can catapult you forward in your journey. And that's all I got.
All right, well said, well said. All right, Twisted, your take.
Okay, so I guess just to say this as a precursor before discussing more so the topic, just like with the whole energy work video that you guys may have heard however long ago in terms of it releasing relative to this one coming out, I don't necessarily consider myself as meditating all too much. Now, let me go ahead and explain it like this. This is based on the idea of me trying to pursue doing it in the sense that, oh, I'm going to try to sit still and, disconnect from everything and try to be within the present moment, as Light was saying, and all that sort of thing. But I recognize it as something that we all do automatically and all that sort of thing. Like, I don't necessarily just sit and, like, have that sort of intention of primarily doing that. However, when I am doing certain sorts of invocations or other magical sort of stuff with these fine folks here or anything like that, then meditation, of course, is going to be a part of the element of it. But as a standalone sort of thing, I usually don't necessarily go ahead and try to do it. It's just more so something that happens to me in the spur of the moment, as Debbie said that I was saying when we were like popped into this voice channel and we're like, yeah, let's go ahead and record this. It's more so of capturing lightning in a bottle and appreciating that experience at that time. I think that's actually a good segue into mentioning this point when it comes to meditative practices is that you can go ahead and try to achieve a certain result as other people like they may explain it as like, oh, when I meditated I saw this or I felt like this, I was like, here in the present moment, or dude, like bro, like I was like totally like out of my body, man, or like I just totally like became like the universe, bro, and like I could just like feel connected to everything. And a lot of times, if you go into that trying to have a particular result that someone else had, trying to have someone else's experience, you're going to go ahead and get in your own way. And a lot of times, it will actually stifle what it is that you're trying to do, because the point isn't to try hard at all when doing something like that, or really any sort of magical thing. Granted, if you're trying to use your intent and will to call upon something, say, for an intention or casting a spell or doing whatever, like, yeah, you're going to want to put some focus into it. But more often than not, a lot of case when it comes to meditation or just about anything else is about letting go, is about going with that natural flow, is about surrender in of itself. So that's initially what comes to mind with meditation.
Okay. And so from there, I'm actually going to take from my own point of view. So I know y'all have mentioned like the quieting and when you're relaxing, and some people are having astral experiences during meditation. Honestly, meditation is just entering the observer state. It is detaching in a way that is actually beneficial for yourself in terms of how I view it, and entering almost like a third party view. So, like Dunster was saying, as a an overview of how your day was, to have those 5 minutes instead of being emotionally charged still. You kind of remove yourself from that charge of emotion and then have an overview of the day, and you're able to process it not necessarily in a completely robotic way, but in a way that you are not clinging to maybe some very negative feelings or like overly positive feelings, but you're not seeing the entire picture. But meditation doesn't have to be quiet. You don't have to be still. Nothing about it is going to be this cookie cutter, like, I all of a sudden have no thoughts in my head kind of thing. Like you
Yes,
that's literally
crisscross
not
applesauce,
possible. Like
crisscross applesauce, yoga pose, like, doing some sort of mudra or hand sign, all that
that
sort of thing.
is
Doesn't have to be that. No.
no, it's not necessary. Literally, your meditation could be taking that time to get into the observer state, walking around your neighborhood.
Exactly. Yes.
Some people, their meditation may actually just be dancing, getting their body moving and literally just being in that moment, just like Light was saying, being present in that moment and allowing those things to move through them instead of clinging on to it. Meditation doesn't have to be just, I am laying completely still, I am breathing deeply, I am here and my brain is gone. That is not meditation in my humble freaking opinion.
I've actually had a lot of people come and talk to me, and whenever they talk to me about meditation, like they hear that I do it a lot, and they always come to me with the same question: how do you get yourself to stop thinking? Like, I just can't sit down and stop thinking. But that's not, I always have to tell them, like, that's not really the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to become the observer
Mm-hmm.
of those thoughts. Like, you don't try to shut up your thoughts, because if you do that, they're just going to get louder, like, no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've
So,
I've seen so many different practices where it's like, you're just gently dismissing them. You are seeing them almost as like these little thought bubbles that are literally just kind of floating along, and you're like, "Ah, that is what that thought is." And then you let it go. You observe it, you recognize it and acknowledge it, and then it's gone and you're good. You're not clinging to anything with these cat claws, right?
mhm.
Oh yes. And you know, I think that all in all, it's just whether you want to look at it from doing meditation or anything like that, it's just a general thing that we happen to do in of ourselves on a day-to-day basis for the most part, living in this modern world with all this stimuli coming from cell phones, tablets, all these different electronics. They're driving around in cars, going to the grocery store, working a job, whatever. We have too much overstimulation, and trying to be like, oh, I gotta do this at this time. I'm so busy. I gotta work however many jobs. Being in this, current economy, especially with gas prices getting higher and higher, and inflation, devaluation of the dollar due to that, all these sorts of things, there's more stress being piled on and occupying more and more of your day, when it is just an escape from that, even for a slight bit amount of time, to kind of refocus, in a sense, rebalance, recenter, and get yourself back into a baseline balanced sort of state, and then just go about your day. And anytime that you need that or can get a moment, you do that for yourself so you can keep even keel.
Absolutely. And, even like I said, meditations don't have to be like you're being still. Meditations don't have to be where you're being quiet either. You can
Yes.
literally have a talking meditation. Like I do that all the time because my brain works more in a picture aspect, and I do like to record whenever I do have meditations, just in case I do see things or observe things. I will actually record myself and I'm just talking the whole time. But that actually helps me kind of focus on what I'm seeing at the present so that I'm able to verbalize it and let it go.
Having a stream of consciousness.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Dunster, it's been a minute since you went ahead and chimed in. Uh, what exactly comes to your mind when it comes to meditation or having streams of consciousness, you could
For
say?
some reason, I feel like I should keep the perspective of like a beginner on this.
Well,
Um,
go ahead. Whatever
okay.
level you see is appropriate.
So earlier I had mentioned just 5 minutes a day of meditation is all you need if you are a beginner. But that's kind of vague. Like there's some things that you may want to do, some things you might not want to do. The main thing is to focus on your breath if you're trying to clear your mind from racing thoughts, of course. And eventually, if you are able to quiet your mind, you can do as Divinium had said earlier and detach from your ego. What I do is I imagine like a blank movie screen, and either memories may come to me or just experiences through the day. I give myself a different perspective on this, and I decide to myself, hey, is this something I want to experience further? Another way you can do that is by writing it down, similar to how Divinium records herself in her meditations. Writing things down basically trains your subconscious to believe that these things are more important. This is why if you write down your dreams, you're going to have more vivid dreams and just more dreams in general. So, yeah, write down your experiences during meditations as well.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. And you know what? I think you talking about writing things down, in some cases, it can be something that happens, where you feel like it's coming from someplace else, like automatic writing. And in talking about streams of consciousness and all that, I think it's definitely appropriate we talk about channeling, and, like the potential of, like, while you are in a meditative sort of state, messages, whether you are expressing them and talking or writing them down, recording them, whatever the case may be, or just keeping it to yourself, that like you're receiving messages from someplace else, or seemingly someplace else based on your own conscious mind and perspective and all that sort of thing. So I guess I'll give it back to you, Debbie, to start off, of like what comes to your mind when it comes to channeling in relation to meditations or just in general.
Absolutely. So, in terms of, channeling during meditations or allowing yourself to get into the meditative state, you do open yourself up for that, especially if you are somebody who is already on the scale of sensitive, right? You might have some clairs going on or just pick up on certain things. You may have had some dreams that are a little uncanny in how they came true, right? Especially with meditation, you're opening yourself up to be able to go into the observer state, but you're not just going to have the opportunity to observe yourself as you advance further. you may actually get messages to observe to kind of take back with you. Um, and channeling is just like, think of it as your higher self, guardians, spirits, those types that are around you, just kind of inputting that information in so that you can take it back with you and either give the message to whom you need to give it to, or keep it for yourself because it was meant just for you.
Oh yes. Light, do you happen to have any thoughts on the streams of consciousness, channeling, all that sort of thing?
Honestly, I think Devi kind of got everything I was thinking of whenever it came to mind.
Oh, all right. And one thing you did say, Debbie, just more so as like a throwback or a callback
Mhm.
to one of the previous talks you had with Raven about the Claires and of themselves. Y'all, you guys out there who are listening right now can go ahead and check that out on the channel or whichever platform happens to go ahead and have our content at present. But in any case, so declares real quick, that's an expanded talk for people to go check out. But in short, what exactly are declares? And I guess try to tie that in a little bit more so with channeling and meditation.
Okay, so think of clairs as just an expanded awareness. Um, so we know that the world is just kind of like one gigantic energetic field, right? And we're all just kind of swimming in it. It doesn't matter, if it's like the air, the water, whatnot. When you have clairs, it's more of having extra senses. And either they are very sensitive, sometimes you can get them more sensitive with practice, almost like flexing it like a muscle. Um, but it's just having those extra senses and receptors for information. Like I believe Claire Gustins was the one that I'm trying to remember
Smell it,
whether that
right?
was smelling. Was that smelling or tasting? I can't
I,
remember.
yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
It was one of those two. I can't remember, and I'm trying to recall for smelling. But there was a client that I had yesterday, and I'm not, of course, going to go into her personal business. But as I was doing the reading for her, all of a sudden I just started smelling this particular scent of cigarettes. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. This is distracting. I need to pull it up. I just keep smelling cigarettes. Now, if you know me, I do not like that smell whatsoever. Like, it's nasty.
Ew.
It's not great, and that is one of like the single most hated smells that I get. So of course it was extremely distracting. But it's almost like my way of, whenever I am with a client, even though it's just on the phone and we're talking, I am able to pick up the extrasensory receptors from what's going on in their situation and how things are. So that's really what the clairs are all about. It's picking up things that normally you wouldn't be able to.
Oh yes. And in regards to um, maybe not necessarily labeling them as declares, right? Because for some examples, from my understanding, is like clairvoyance, being able to have an expanded awareness of seeing things or
Mhm.
seeing the future or anything like that. But yeah, once again, that talk is already out there. People go check out.
Yes.
But in terms of this particular conversation about meditations and streams of consciousness associated with it, I will go ahead and pass the baton back to you, Dunster, and being like, all right, so in your meditations, right? You don't need to get in any
Yes.
specific instances, but generally speaking, what sort of senses for yourself do you detect kind of like expand, or you're more so open and receptive? And then I'll ask the same question of you, Light, once Dunster is done sharing his piece on that.
All right.
Um, I guess just like awareness of my surroundings as like a whole. I'm more of like a visual type of like meditator, but for other forms of just like walking meditation, blah blah blah. Like I could hear someone stepping on a leaf from like 200 feet away, and it's like sometimes I snap my head because it's like I shouldn't be hearing this. That's about it for like extra senses, I don't really smell or hear too much.
I see you over there, Matt Murdock, Daredevil. I see you, bro.
I'm missing the reference.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Marvel superhero. Dude's a blind
Oh,
dude, and
okay.
all the rest of his senses are heightened, including hearing.
That may be PTSD, but that's neither here nor there.
yes, hyper awareness. Ooh.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so I'll pass the ball over to you, Light, in that when you are going ahead and meditating, having like a stream of consciousness, due to it, or just whatever, what are some sort of expanded senses that you may experience? You don't need to get any specific instances if you don't wish to, but just generally.
Honestly, I've had a lot of instances where I kind of felt my sense of touch, it's pretty much what he Dunster said, actually, where my awareness kind of spreads, but it kind of feels like those things around me are a part of me. Like I know exactly where it's at. Like somebody could walk past me, be absolutely silent, but I would feel them walk past me, even though they're nowhere near me at all. And it's kind of like as if my body just became like a giant bubble around myself, and I can just feel everything that is moving, anything that is breathing, anything that is living at all within that bubble is like, it seems like it's a part of me, just because it's like I know exactly where it's at. I know what it's going to do next, and I can tell where, kind of, what it's doing, even though I do closed eye meditation preferably. So my eyes will be closed, but I still know everything that is going on around me. My hearing usually, every once in a while, my hearing will like heighten very much, but what I tend to focus on is that bubble, and I try to block out as many senses as I can, at least whenever I'm doing like thought form meditation or spiritual meditation. Um, so I try to like drown all of that out for the most part, and allow those senses to kind of take over and like become hyperactive.
Oh yes, and a couple things you said right there just sparked some ideas in my head of kind of like, things to interrelate to it. The first one, when you're talking like the whole touch thing, right? And like, oh, it kind of like the bubble expands and you're going ahead and feeling like, someone's walking next to you, even though they're like however far away. You could kind of say that like when you're doing meditation and all that sort of thing, the boundaries that separate us from our surroundings kind of melt. I guess if you want to go ahead and put it like that.
Yes,
Um,
I believe I connect to some sort of like super consciousness, like things around me, like I connect with their consciousnesses as well, whatever is within that area, that localized area. Like all the consciousness kind of merge into mine, and I can
oh
kind of tell what they're doing. And I'm not gonna sit here and say I can read minds, but I'm I'm kind of able to like tell what they're gonna do next, like even though I'm not even looking at anybody or like seeing anything.
oh yes. I guess to go ahead and put another sort of thing that I thought of, like not necessarily one of the initial couple of things that I thought of, but just as you were speaking right there, that like when it comes to the manner of awareness, right? This is kind of like an analogy I make rather often, whether you guys may have heard it from me or not. But it's like when we regularly experience things, as we refer to it as like, perceiving the third dimension and all that sort of thing with our five standard senses, in just regular day life. It's kind of like we're zoomed in on a microscope to whatever sort of like, times, numeral figure it may be that's appropriate for it. And then you could say that the super conscious, as you're talking about it, or God, the universe, source, whatever sort of hierarchical ranking you have with all these different tiers of things, just being more so of an expanded, grandiose macrocosm, right? Um, with that microscope, you're kind of like dialing it back and like less focusing and getting like a bigger, broader perspective. Like, on whatever it is that you're particularly viewing. Say it's like a slide for like a microscope using science class or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or whatever the case may be. And the other thing that came to mind, which was one of those initial couple of things, is while we're discussing like just the like meditation in of itself, from like okay, you sit down and you just go ahead and just observe your own thoughts and all that sort of thing. I actually thought of sensory deprivation, like a sensory deprivation tank, and like the practice of people going into those to try to like through the means of like actually being put in that sort of environment to negate their physical senses, so all that's left is silence, and thus like interconnecting with the all, at least from my understanding of from what people like, for example, Joe Rogan, have spoken about those sorts of experiences in of itself. Do you guys have any thoughts about sensory deprivation in of itself, whether you've thought about doing it or whatever the case may be? Whoever happens to speak up first on it.
Yeah, I definitely have had a lot of thoughts about doing it. I've had made a lot of plans to do it. However, every single time it's fallen through. But here in like about 2 weeks or so, I'm literally just gonna make an appointment and just straight up go, because I mean, uh, from from what I already experienced, I can only imagine what it's gonna be like in sensory deprivation, which would be absolutely amazing. And I'm completely looking forward to it. I'm just going to do my regular routine of meditation, if I'm being honest, just to see how far I can, like your analogy, see how far I can get out with that telescope or the microscope.
Yes, yes.
Well, I know
Um,
my sister-in-law actually has done this. And she talked about her experience. I think she fell asleep. But there is apparently a tank that does this kind of thing around me, and now I'm just kind of sitting here going, "Oh, I guess I better make some plans."
My friend actually is planning on creating a sensory deprivation tank in his bathtub, or at least he has been talking about doing it for like the past month or so.
Mhm.
So if he ends up doing that, I guess I'm gonna try it out.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, I mean, with a sensory deprivation tank, that's going to make it so much easier to not get distracted by, maybe some aches and pains or like uncomfortable kind of positioning in the body. Because, sometimes we can fixate on that, and all of a sudden it's just like everyone's scalp is extremely itchy all at the same time. Congratulations, now you're scratching. Um, but you're welcome.
I can't stop it.
No, but you become so hyper aware of anything that's happening physically that you kind of get out of your own head whenever you're in meditation sometimes. Like it's all of a sudden, a hair shifted because the AC turned on or the wind blew and all of a sudden I'm itchy somewhere. Yeah, it can get distracting. And so that kind of takes some of those distracting elements away. And if you're like me, I've got kids. I have children, I have rugrats. And guess what they bring with them? Noise. So much noise. So, I mean, a sensory deprivation tank, genuinely in terms of meditation practices, that would be ideal, I do believe.
How about you, Dunster? Sensory deprivation. Have you thought about it? Something that strikes your fancy? Have you done it?
I've definitely thought about doing it. The only sense that I guess I've cut off myself was my vision once. I mean, I have a sleeping mask that's like the lowest level of like sensory deprivation you can get. It's pretty good if you're a visual meditator as well.
Yes. I have done
Yes,
that.
yes.
I actually have one that I keep on my desk just in case.
There you go. But as the perspective of the beginner for this one, I definitely would not recommend it if someone was like, "Oh, I've never tried it before. I can never like get out of my own head. Maybe I'll just go to the extreme and go into a sensory deprivation tank." I definitely wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah,
It mi-
absolutely.
it might it might be good, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 you might uh I don't want to say go crazy, but you'll definitely be questioning what's going on in your head, I think.
Well, I actually don't know about that
That is a good question.
because some of the sensory deprivation places they actually have lights inside of there, and also like they also have some of them play music and stuff like that, so you could actually like cut off your sensory of touch and like sight, so you could actually do partial deprivation through it at some of these
Okay.
places. So I mean, I completely agree with you for like total sensory deprivation, but like partial, I think anybody could do it really.
Right. I haven't heard that, so I'd actually agree in that case.
Cool beans.
You
Could
know,
probably take it.
oh yes,
I,
and
I,
you
I mean,
know,
can I just
oh,
cut you off
go
real
ahead.
quick, Devinium?
No, go
How
ahead,
far are
bro.
we into
No,
this?
listen, I talked enough, dog. Trust me,
No,
you
no, no, no.
speak as much as you want.
This is something sweet for YouTube. How far are we into this, Divinium?
We are 31 minutes in.
31
Alright.
minutes.
So for those of you listening, and you're 30 minutes into the video now, before you click off, hit that like button.
Oh
Put us up in
Jesus!
the
Oh,
algorithm.
Please.
If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It's red on your screen right now, and there's a little bell icon. You can be notified of the latest posts. So
oh, gee.
Ready to
if you're
click
trying to,
on
if you are a
how
beginner, if you are a beginner and you want to find the way, or at least see somewhat of our path, just keep watching. There you go. You can go
Oh,
into it.
Oh, thank you so
Like
much. I
wow.
appreciate you. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dunnster.
oh yeah. And just to give some context, this guy right here, he also has his own YouTube channel. So just like you're gonna go ahead and show and promo and do all that, I'm gonna do it back to you right now.
thank
Go
you.
on to well, actually, you can go ahead and check out the Open Resource YouTube channel in the whole Friends of the Channel section at we
The
have it at
community
present
tab,
at time
not
of
the
recording.
community tab. It's under the
And
channels tab.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think you have to have a certain amount of like prerequisites before you get a community tab, but which you don't have at present currently
Yeah.
yet. Keywords yet, but yes, Dunster. You can find him right there on there, and if you don't, look on our YouTube channel or whichever platform, you can go to YouTube. You can type in Dunster and you can go ahead and find this guy. Where he has a few videos up at present, and we have been giving him a lot of peer pressure to go ahead and put out more stuff and all that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, so one thing I did want to go ahead and mention though, that came to mind in listening was like, so like like you said that hey look, there's partial means of a sensory deprivation as opposed to just doing the full outright thing if it's too spooky for anyone to go ahead and do so. And I know you mentioned Devi the whole like having like a face mask or anything like that, and I definitely want to bring this back to you for this particular thing, but the usage of binaural beats,
Mhm.
you know, and listening with your eyes closed, whether the face mask or something like that. I know you and of yourself have utilized binaural beats and or I'm trying to think the Monroe
Solfeggio
Institute's particular
frequencies.
program. Oh
Yes.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, you can use solfeggio frequencies as well. But yes, the Monroe Institute and their binaural beats program. What exactly is it called?
Oh gosh. So you ask me this question knowing how bad am I with names?
Oh, what? Okay, semi-hink. I mean, not
Hemisync.
semi-hink.
Hemisync.
Hemisync. There we go. I don't know why I said it like that. Okay, I had a brain fart. But yes, the hemisync experience. Yeah.
Yes.
So I know you've gone ahead and dabbled into that. So, what exactly have you particularly gathered from those sorts of meditations? If you feel comfortable enough
Oh yeah,
sharing.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Honestly, with meditations like that, going kind of with the hemisync program and trying to get to astral projection through meditation and all of that, really it does kind of program and or train your consciousness in a way, to be able to kind of go from immediate I am in chaos, I am in like my normal ego and all of those thoughts, to I am in observer state immediately. So I will say that is extremely helpful, and it's kind of like training. Now I will say this one has not been able to astral project. That is not an experience I have held as of yet, but I'm working on it. But in terms of like binaural beats, it gives you something to focus on. It gives you it's almost like the sensory deprivation in a way. And especially like even myself, when I have my sleeping mask on to try and meditate, the funny part is I have my eyes open. I just need that filter of information from actual eyesight to go away, to actually be able to better see what I'm seeing through like my mind when I'm looking at through like the quote third eye unquote. So it's really just one of those things to focus on to try and get yourself out of the chaos of your own mind, I would say. Just
Oh
like a
yes.
guided meditation.
Oh yes. And to you, Light, have you ever tried the particular hemisync experience or just binaural beats in of themselves?
Dude, I love solfeggio frequencies. However, anytime I don't know exactly which one to use, I always resort to 432 hertz, which is like the vibration of the planet. So it's like the natural frequency. I actually got a app on my phone. Uh, I don't exactly remember what the name of it is, but it's literally like a frequency player. So it just plays pure frequencies. And honestly, my experience with them is like as soon as I turn it on, after about 10 seconds in, I'm immediately just an observer. Like I just completely get thrown into a meditation and I can go as deep as I want into it, whereas without it I actually take like maybe about like 3 minutes, 5 minutes somewhere in there to like fully dive into the meditation. So honestly, if you're a beginner, I would totally suggest that you look into solfeggio frequencies or um I'm not 100% sure with the binaural beats. I didn't really use them that much, but if you can't find a solfeggio frequency that works that you feel like would work for you, then I would say to resort to 432 hertz.
Yes,
Oh yes.
yes. And I have a little bit of like a warning with this as well. If you are a beginner, do not use like multiple frequencies within a day. You can kind of like put yourself out of whack and you might like scramble your mind. It's actually happened to me before when recommending videos to friends. They were I basically like assigned them all a frequency, said, "Hey, try this out for 2 weeks," and just by me giving them the links and like finding videos that I like, I kind of messed myself up. So they
Oh
they
yeah.
are very good, but keep it to a minimum. Find a frequency that you enjoy, like a soundtrack that you enjoy, and try to stick up on it for like 3 weeks. Doing this will make it easier for you to actually tap into this frequency without the music. Like I've memorized the actual like sound of what 417 hertz is, which is like the removal of negative energy. So I can just imagine the soundtrack, and there I am.
Oh yes. Yes. And for me, I would not necessarily say that I have tried using binaural beats or the semi-sync. No, there we go again. Hemi-sync experience, or like solfeggio frequencies or anything like that. If anything, I am just more so of a. I'm going to go ahead and check out like a musical album or something like that. Um, I know that when it comes to utilizing like YouTube or something like that, a lot of times I have like several dungeon synth albums that I go ahead and listen to. For those who are unfamiliar with the genre, just think of it as like a modern sort of like, okay, you know what, people are playing D&D and all that sort of thing. Well, we're gonna go ahead and create a backdrops for that. There's a couple of them in particular that I definitely dig, and I'm trying to think of the particular sort of there's this one album that a friend of ours happens to recommend quite a bit, which it does have vocals to it as opposed to the vocalist dungeon synth albums that I was mentioning. But I believe it's by Selkie Girl. If Debbie, you happen to remember the name of that
Yes, I
album?
do. Oh
Yeah,
no. No, I
what
don't
was
remember the
what was
name of the album, but I recall the songs. You're asking me
oh
for
yeah.
names again. Why would you do this to me? Um
Oh yeah, but yeah, nah, I'm trying to kind of look it up right now. I think I have to like go to Bandcamp real quick to get the particular album. But yeah, look up Selkie Girl on Bandcamp, and then whichever album pops up for them. I'm not seeing it at the moment, but if I go ahead and do find it, I will shout it out by the end of this particular conversation. Um, but yeah, so those are a couple things that come to mind. Like whatever works for you, whatever sort of things you go ahead and can listen to get you in a observer state, to get you where you are actually like noticing that you are thinking certain thoughts instead of just thinking them. You're like, okay, I'm thinking certain thoughts. Why am I thinking certain thoughts? Well, why is it that I go ahead and have these particular things pop in my head? And when you become more so conscious and aware of it, then you can kind of like, when you are more so within that regular state of mind of like going about your day and all that, you can promote the beneficial thoughts that you have, and you can like try to start to negate the ones that are detrimental for you, and pretty much just start to build more mental habits that are going to help you in the long run, and thus thoughts lead to actions in building better habits with your actions and what you do, whether it's health, whether it's you know um going ahead and uh I guess, for example, like I don't know, like running or walking or anything like that, which of course you can go ahead and observe within your thoughts and of itself, while you're doing those sorts of things. But yes, generally speaking, um, just there's a lot. Pretty much, I'm saying there's a lot of ways to do meditation. Just pick your poison.
No,
You know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? Oh, excuse me for that. But yeah, so I'm trying to think what else did I think of to go ahead and mention at the moment that came to mind. I'm going to pass the baton over to you, Debbie,
I've
while
got
I
one.
go ahead and
Oh,
try to recall. Oh, go ahead,
Go
Dev.
ahead.
okay.
You.
No, I wanted to see if everyone was comfortable with sharing what they have benefited from meditation as a whole. It can be like private things or even just like even parts about your physical health because this can improve as well through meditation.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a wonderful question to ask. So in terms of meditation, um, so like I said, I have a chaotic household, right? And there are times where I need to disconnect. I need to just kind of wrap myself in that bubble and then be the calm in the storm, right? So instead of just kind of aggravating the chaos further and further and further, it allows me to de escalate and then dissipate. So that's, I do believe, the best usage of meditation that has benefited me greatly.
And how about you, Light? What would you say that is for you? Like
Honestly,
answer.
it's it's helped me a lot with like closed mindedness. I haven't been the most closed minded person in the world. Like, even whenever I was a kid and growing up, I grew up in a Catholic household. However, I still ventured out and learned about a lot of different types of religions and just belief systems. And like, I would always try to learn more about it because I never was like too sure on like what I wanted to believe in. And it kind of opened up my horizons to something that I do have faith in and that I do practice. So I'm like I'm very heavy on like the spiritual end of meditation. Um so it's helped me learn a lot about myself as well. And it just to me I would say that it's a irreplaceable practice.
And how about for you, Dunster?
For me personally, just meditation alone, I'd say stress and anxiety. These were very crippling for me throughout high school, and getting rid of these things definitely helped me with my confidence. So, just confidence, anxiety, stress, being more comfortable with myself.
Oh yes, and I'm
Because
not gonna
without
lie.
the
Oh,
one sec,
go ahead.
without the meditation, you can really just spiral out of control and be like, "Well, these are the things that happened to me. I'm a broken person." Blah blah blah. Like, how could I have a still calm mind when all these things have happened to me? It's very easy to get that victim mentality. So that it can help you with that.
Oh yes,
Actually
and I would.
processing the traumas from like the third person perspective. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? That actually is a perfect segue, I guess. I was just gonna leave it at that of like, okay, you know what, like that, like I when I was going ahead and was about to speak, I like it was kind of like it sounded like that was a stopping point. So my apologies for doing that. But
Oh,
that actually is a nice segue of kind of like recently, something that I went ahead and did, and Debbie was actually there when I was doing it, of like me going ahead, being in a meditative sort of state, and just having like a therapy sort of session. You could say it was a particular operation where I called upon different angelic sort of forces, and while it was more so looking to do it in a physical manner, and I actually turned more like also into like, okay, physical therapy, but also like delving into stuff that I went ahead and like need to speak about. So um like Archangel Gabriel kind of like delving into my subconscious, and like addressing things within that subconscious that it was kind of like thoughts bubbling up to the surface, and then I went ahead and just like spoke about it to like vent it out. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that is, that was the first time I went ahead and tried to employ a method like that, and I definitely plan on doing so um, whenever it calls for me to do so. But that's just what happened to come to mind as like a specific experience to share, and also um, you know, in terms of being in that particular state in of itself, it was kind of like a self hypnosis and trance that I put myself in. Um and not only that, but like in terms of like the talking about before of like what I said, like the melting of like things, like the melting of boundaries. And I guess the way that I can describe it for myself at that moment was like it like I definitely had that melting going on, but in particular there was more sensations kind of like below, like because of the area of focus of said like physical therapy aspect of it, but it was below my arms, like in the mid like section, torso midsection, and like my legs, and it was kind of like I was in like a energetic jacuzzi, you know. Um, what I'm saying, like kind of like after you get out of a workout or something like that. So yeah, that's what came to mind for me, and I guess seemed appropriate to share at the present moment. Um, let's see what else, because as we keep going and discussing, I keep typing stuff down. Oh yeah, yeah.
We
So in terms of like things to help us get into like a meditative state, right? For anyone out there, um, let's go with like the audio, right? Another audio sort of thing, whether it's us doing it ourselves or listening into it. What came to mind is mantras, and having like a particular phrase, having a particular word like om, you know,
Mhm.
something like that, which can go ahead and get us in a particular headspace and all of that sort of thing. So, I guess we'll go ahead and pass the ball back to you, Debbie. Do you have any particular mantras? Well, if you are willing to share, or just your general stance on mantras in of themselves of how they could be utilized to help spur on meditation.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of mantras, like I don't use much myself. In fact, like if I'm trying to go into a meditative state, the funny part is I don't really listen to binaural beats. I'm not listening to the hemisync. I will actually just listen to underwater ocean sounds. And that's really what I listen to in order to get into a meditative state for myself. Like I'm needing to um, either go in and do some work or just kind of like refocus myself, right? But in terms of mantras, um, goodness, you could go with just saying that you are going into the observer state, you are one with the universe, you are um, connecting to that which is outside of myself but within me. Although that sounds very, I don't know. It sounds a little but it is
A
the
little
truth.
hokey.
A little hokey, but within mantras, or pick a vowel. Pick your favorite vowel.
Oh yes, like
Like, oh yeah, like
or ah, or
uh
e, or
E. E is my favorite, and if I have to, I'm not even kidding. Like in the shower, if I'm going through like one of those moments, you're just all you're gonna hear is like E. That's it. Just E. It's like, but it helps. And sing it. Like it doesn't matter if you're just like exhaling it or singing it or whatnot. But that definitely can help.
All right. How about you, Light?
so personally I would use Ohm for the most part. However, if I just feel like I want to do something different that day, usually I go to thinking of peace, love, and wisdom. So that's pretty much all I do. I don't really have much to go on for that because I don't use mantras very often, but whenever I do, those are usually what I go to.
Oh yeah, and I guess another way to go ahead and like refer to mantras, and as opposed to using the more so Eastern title, is just like affirmations, affirmative statements as well can kind of like get bundled up into that also, as has already been mentioned. But Dunster, what about you in regards to mantras and I guess in correlation affirmative statements?
For me, I never really used any mantras. For me, I guess I used affirmations the most in terms of during my healing sessions. I used to actually channel affirmations, and I've forgotten most of them, but the one that always sticks around is I'm. Wait. Let me. Okay. I am capable of infinite love, and I'm all deserving of this fact. and that was the mantra that stuck with me, or affirmation. Whatever. You can make it a mantra if you want.
Oh yes.
But I
And
guess maybe I can talk about what mantras and affirmations do. They
do
basically they put a mark into your aura, and it will attract whatever this mantra is. So the more that you repeat Om, I believe this is like what is Om? It's like silence and just awareness, right?
I believe so.
Maybe like a spreading of the awareness, I believe. So basically, chanting Om more and more doesn't make you aware right away if you are not used to this, but it'll put it into your aura. You'll attract more, I guess, situations where you can find this clarity and this spread out awareness. And then from there, it gets stronger and stronger by actually appreciating and recognizing that the mantras are taking place within your world at that moment. So, yes, remembering your mantras and being aware that you've attracted these things is probably the most important part, because you can repeat something as many times as you want, but it doesn't really matter until you actually appreciate and want to bring it into your life.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yes. And not only like utilizing mantras and affirmations, affirmative statements as a means of spurring on meditation in of himself. Like there's that, you know, you could say the vocal kind of stimuli, right? But as we've discussed quite a bit so far, of like you not necessarily using them as something to spur it on. Well, I'm about to mention it, but in having visualizations as a result of meditation, you can use visualizations and use your imagination to go ahead and spur on meditative states in of themselves. Um, so in that sort of sense, does anyone have any thing to chime in about like using a particular visualization to bring about a meditative sort of state?
Actually, I do. So what I usually do is, this is going with like my grounding meditation actually. So I'll originally start seeing roots coming out into the earth and wrapping around the core of the earth, and uh, then every I'll go ahead and zoom out of the picture and see like a large tree that is just growing off of the earth with the sun in the background, and just knowing what the process is that the tree is going through and cycling energy.
I think the
Oh
roots
yes.
one is one that all of us have
Hmm.
probably utilized,
Oh yeah.
because I do the same dang thing, and even to my clients that are needing like extra grounding and that, I'm just like, okay, so you're gonna go lay on the ground and you are going to imagine either out of your feet or out of your tailbone. I prefer out of the tailbone because it's the end of the spinal column. That you have a golden taproot that is just digging deeper through the soil, and you feel the soil moving as you're digging deeper. Um, and it helps so much.
Oh yes. And how about you, Dunster?
I agree. That's a method that I also use. Um, Another thing is you could start to make your own place to bring yourself into meditation and have different spaces for different purposes. For me, I have one where I listen to my 417 hertz frequency, as mentioned before, and basically in there, there's two like burgundy chairs and like a campfire of sorts, more of like a fireplace right in front of the chairs, and the chairs open for like my guides to come through, and in the fireplace is sage, and I'm just breathing sage inside of there. So yeah,
Oh yes.
Yep.
that's one of
Um.
my visualization techniques.
Oh
And I
yes.
have I have also utilized that one as well. I've got two different ones, and it's great. I've got like this weird purple beach, very rocky beach, and then one that's like this just golden field that is surrounded by trees. And it's wonderful. And they have different purposes. One is for grounding
It
and
Exactly.
one
has
is for
a place.
cleansing.
Hmm.
Imagining your happy place.
Yes.
I used to actually have a place like that where I actually had a large waterfall with like a giant forest around with like deer and a bunch of animals that just roamed around. And I would always sit on a rock that's in the middle of the pond that the waterfall actually splashed on. I just kind of found that interesting.
Oh yes. In the construction of a particular sort of environment, right? Um, it makes me think of the process and practice of building a mind palace, or as also referred to as a memory palace, as opposed to just naturalized environments. Have you guys ever tried to build a memory palace, as it's called, or anything like that?
Yes. And I would say it's not necessarily building, but kind of seeing how your internal structures are already built because
Hmm.
it's less I am materializing this and more of I am discovering this space within myself, um at least in terms of my own experience. But yes, and that one I'm gonna keep close to the belt.
Oh yes, yes. Uh, Now how about you, Dunster?
For me, I'd say this place already exists. As you said, it's a memory palace, and anything that we can remember, we've already experienced. So, to me, logically, I'd say you just have to remember what this palace is for yourself and see if you can go there. Personally, I kind of just let the visions come to me. I don't really seek memories like that. They kind of just come to me. But maybe one day. You've given me an idea.
Hey, go for it.
There we
How about you, Light?
I actually have not tried this. I will be now, but
go. Right.
just like Dunster said, I usually just let my memories come to me. Like whether it's while I'm meditating or something happens in my life that reminds me of a certain point in time or something. Like I don't usually try to reflect on like super far back memories or anything
Oh yes, and
unless
you
got it.
know, oh yes. My apologies for interrupting and all that. I'm doing way too much butting in and all that. My bad, y'all.
No, you're good, man. I literally thought of that as you were talking, so it technically was me butting in.
Oh, okay. Nah, you good, bro. You're
Yeah,
good.
that happened
But
to me earlier. I was like, wait, it's coming to my mind. Give me a second.
oh yeah, and I guess like a book, like there's plenty of books on mind palaces and memory palaces, which from like actual like delving into bookstore standpoint, I haven't really done that, nor actually like tried to attempt it all too much from a actual practical standpoint. But in terms of a particular ebook that I read that was discussing the power of the mind and mentioned build like what could be the benefits of building a memory palace or a mind palace, it is the ebook. It's actually rather short. Mind is Your Business by Sadhguru. I think it's about 70 or so pages long, but in it, it's pretty self-explanatory by title, where he discusses, the power of the mind and, different ways of doing so. So that's, me going ahead and giving promo to that, pointing y'all in that sort of direction if you want to go ahead and check it out. Um, Now, another thing that comes to mind of like visual stimuli, right? Um, at least for myself, that I have utilized before, and I think everybody in this conversation has gone ahead and joined in, like with me on this. Like, there's been different instances. Is utilizing COSA rays, um, and they're definitely not well known by any means. From what I understand, there's only like one website on the net that has any sort of like quote unquote official writings or anything like that. But there's one guy named Armand. I forget the last name, what have you. But pretty much it's a means of visualizing different colored rays for different purposes of said energy being associated with them. And, say for example, the red ray, the color red, that's denoted with power, passion, all these sorts of things. The green ray, it's utilized for health, growing, all these regeneration, all that sort of thing. And it's something that I happen to utilize quite a bit myself, and it's been like a couple years, but I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Kenny, wherever you are out there. It's been a minute since I talked to you, bro. But he's the one who went ahead and brought me into this sort of thing. Yeah, I'm sure you guys remember Kenny quite a
Yes.
bit. An eccentric character, but I'll put it like this: if there's anybody who's definitely like about it when it comes to different sorts of extrasensory abilities and all that, it's definitely Kenny. But yeah, like they ever since he went ahead and brought me into it, it's definitely been helpful not only for myself, but for others as well, which includes you guys. At least from my understanding of it, but I guess like if you guys want to talk about Costa Race, so be it, and your experiences with them, or any sort of particular systems or anything that you want to shout out of like visualizing things that have been helpful for you and all that.
Man.
Hmm.
Well, with my experience with Costa Rays, all I really have to say about that is um was that two spirits were following me around, and uh you honestly were a very big help on sending them on their way. They were, I'm not gonna lie, they were kind of getting on my nerves a little bit. Like, as if they were like poking me like every like 5 minutes, like, hey, so are you gonna like help us yet? And I'm just, look, man, I'm reading right now, like I'm trying to figure out how to help you. And then I just hopped on here and I was like, hey guys, is there a way for you to help us? And you stood up and you were a very big help.
Oh yeah, I know that Debbie was there for that particular instance as well.
Yes.
Um, let's see. Yeah, you were there. I think Lono might have been there for that one. I know that Kin was there for that one as well. Yeah. Um. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting one. Was that the first one that we did in that sort of like few instances of back to back to back with those like sort of spirits following? What
I
Yeah,
have you?
think so.
yeah, that was the first time that I was introduced to Costa Rays actually, and it was very interesting of an experience because like I remember like okay, you know, like those like sci-fi movies where they have like the little plate discs that get raised up in the tractor beams.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw myself standing on with like some archangels and then the spirits. And the spirits were just like, thank you, thank you. I was just like, dude, I don't even know exactly what's going on right now. I'm right there with you. Like
I
I'm
think
just
what
seeing
we
things
dubbed
right
that
now.
time was
And
the
I
angelic
was,
elevator.
yeah, I was just like,
We did.
I don't know exactly what's going on either, buddy, but you're with some archangels and I know that you're gonna be on your way. So have fun. I hope the best for you.
And, yeah, we did. We have made mention of the angelic elevator. It's almost become a meme in terms of the friend group for quite a while after that one.
But yeah, I literally was looking around myself. I just saw the pillar of light. Like it literally looked like a pillar of light, and we're just like on this like little elevator. And I just look at them. I'm just like, hey man, I'm glad that you got the help that you need, but I'm kind of confused. So you guys have a
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah. And for frame of reference for like the technical aspect, if you guys go check out the material for Costa Rays, if you haven't found it on net, or what have you. That was utilizing the white Kosa ray, which in of itself is for ascension and all that sort of thing. So helping those particular spirits and entities ascend, get back, get to the light, at the end of the tunnel, and all that sort of thing to go through the reincarnation process. Or as one of our friends call it, Shiva's trash compactor. You know, in terms of the destructive aspect of taking away the layers of a entity or a being, so they can be, be able to incarnate more so freshly, and everything be sorted out, you could say.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, and I guess in talking about the whole reincarnation cycle, right, and all that, meditations in of themselves can be utilized to spur on past lives and things like that. Is that anything that you guys would be willing to share of that you've picked up on from experiences
I
with
don't really
meditation?
have much information about it, but I have had two experiences with past lives. One being from ancient Egypt, and then another from Atlantis. I have more information on the Atlantis one though. That's actually where I met my now wife. In a past life, and she was, I believe it's Lemurian. She was a Lemurian, which was like I guess you can say like the tribal people of that time, and Atlantis was like the highly sophisticated technologically advanced civilization, which is, I still can't wrap my head around like how that came to be, just because like those two types of societies don't usually coexist very well. Just because they have like such uh different views on the world. And I was actually one of the people who died during the flood. As far
Yeah.
as far as I know, I was just like one of the people who died during that. Um, but yeah, and then my experience with the Egyptian, I don't have very much information on it, but I believe it was a pharaoh status of some sort.
Oh yes. And in terms of that, like when it comes to past lives, just to briefly speak on it, right? Like a lot of people, they go ahead and like, just to be clear, like it's not as if like when someone recalls, like a lot of times people having past lives of like, oh, I'm a pharaoh or I'm this or that, right? Like, a lot of people go ahead and report that in. It's not as if one person necessarily has to have a one-to-one sort of unique connection where they're only that one person. There's nobody else within the existence that necessarily has that. That's kind of like, when I was talking about the separation of layers within the reincarnation process, or quote unquote Shiva's trash compactor, Shiva, Hindu god of destruction and all that sort of thing. For those who were unaware, but this is usual general sort of stuff with Hinduism, but you know in the taking away those layers, kind of like breaking away those aspects of that individual, it's kind of like little different pieces and components get spread out and can go ahead and be implemented on like future incarnations and all that sort of thing, like different entanglements to that previous like manner of existence, as well as okay, I kind of lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. Just I gotta collect it for a moment. Um, well, you know what? While I'm doing that, Dunster, past lives, whether it's just for yourself or just thinking about past lives as a subject, through the means of meditation. Got any thoughts on that?
Um, it's a good thing to like realize aspects of who you were before to learn from this life, but it's very easy to get lost into like, oh, I was this very important person from history. Like you said, there's multiple cases of people saying, oh, they're pharaohs, and like it doesn't make sense where everyone keeps seeing the same thing. I believe that every life has probably been lived by you yourself. I may have lived your life before Twisted. So for me to say, oh, I'm twisted because I've lived his life in a past life, it doesn't make sense. There's things that I could have learned from that experience to make this experience better. Uh, I don't think it's meant to be taken too literal
Oh yes, yes.
because
Fully
you
agree.
start to. It's one, it's attached to your ego, and two, it's you kind of lose track of what's actually important in this life. You just try to recreate all the things that you did before. Whereas I've
Oh,
seen a bunch of like past lives where I've been like stomped out to death, and like I know I'm a martyr, and just being a drug addict in a past life, and just recognizing those things. It's like, well, I know it's a past life there. Why don't I just try to relive that life? Like, no, it's meant to be there to be like, okay, this is a perspective that I've had before. How can I incorporate this now?
oh yes. And how about you, Debbie? In terms of past lives and speaking on it, just the general concept of it and all that sort of thing. If you want to share particulars, then go ahead. If not, then like, do you have any thoughts on just the general aspect of it, reaching it through meditation, and I guess to properly uh, refer to it as past life regression?
Well, past life regression, I mean, it is helpful because sometimes, we do come into this life with some mannerisms or characteristics that we're just like, I don't exactly know where the hell this came from. Why am I feeling a certain way about X, Y, and Z? And I've never had an experience with it. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I've always been afraid of a snake coming out of the toilet and biting me in the ass. Like,
Ooh,
I don't know
it comes
why.
around every now and then, but
I
it's not a perpetual fear, I'll say.
it's not a perpetual fear, but it was to the point that as a child, like completely irrationally, I live in Texas for for reference. Like this is not something that happens in our plumbing. And like I would just literally like sprint out of the bathroom the moment that the toilet started flushing. Like I'm gone. Like I'm fucking gone. And I
To
couldn't
me, that
figure
doesn't
out why.
make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
You'd
None.
think that you would like hover above the toilet rather than try to escape after you've already been on top of
I
it.
know. It makes no sense. All of it is completely and totally irrational.
Mhm.
But that's really the example that I have. But going into like a past life regression, I have had a couple of visuals where I may have been a man in Cambodia that met a very untimely end. Uh
Ooh, I'm so sorry to that man in Cambodia.
I know. And that's fine. And the funny part is like kind of seeing it, it's hilarious, like in hindsight, right? Because imagining a dude getting bit and then unfortunately passing from it, that's a little funny. That's like Darwin Award kind of funny.
Mhm.
But at the same token, it's just like, that's where that irrational fear came from. Okay, now I can place it. Now I can let it go. Um, so it's like a very quick release kind of thing where, you're not going to see me sprinting out of a bathroom anytime soon unless like children are screaming. But, you
Oh
know,
yes.
that kind of thing I do believe past lives are useful for because it brings into kind of perspective some of the experiences that you have in this particular life. I do fully agree with Dunster's point of view that some people focus entirely too much on who they were before and they forget to live the life that they're in now. And we've seen it quite a bit in terms of um, the social groups, right?
Oh
And
yes.
that's it's a repeating pattern that I have noticed, and it's a little concerning, but that's where I do believe more grounding exercises into the body in and of itself and your own personality is very necessary to the practice. We can be spiritual and etheric as we are, but our body is also part of the process of this life.
Oh yes, yes. And not only just in terms of past lives, you could say of like, oh, I was a pharaoh, oh, I was a dude in Cambodia that got like taken out or what have you, but like the whole concept of like avatars and like being incarnations of deities of different spirits or this that and the third is also tied in with that sort of phenomena
Mhm.
as well. um
Real quick before we like get off this topic, that's actually where
oh,
my fear of oceans came from. Like I've always been like a really really good swimmer. Like my whole family, we none of us know exactly how I learned how to swim, but I've always been a really good swimmer. But for whatever reason, every single time I go and visit the ocean, like I just have like this little voice in the back of my head like, "Hey, don't go out too far because you'll get dragged out there." I'm just like, "No." So I try to stay out of the water whenever I'm at the ocean. It,
oh
it
yes.
it's like a irrational fear for no reason. Like I know I'm a really good swimmer. It's just for whatever reason I just have a serious fear of the ocean.
Oh yeah. And that actually goes ahead and speaking about like just like having these sorts of like these intuitive pings and knowings and all that. um like past life regression or like being an avatar, all these sorts of things, right? you know what comes to mind is that whether there actually is a direct tie to you in that you and of yourself as light or Devi is Devi, Dunster is Dunster, myself is Twisted, right? Whether we had actual particular direct line of lives that were lived or not, you know, that, you know, what I was actually trying to segue into is like, we may or may not have these direct lines, but this may be us tapping into the akasha or what happens we call the akashic records. And when utilizing meditation, and potentially getting information channeled and all sort of thing, that's what a lot of people go ahead and attribute to getting this information, is that whether it's coming from a particular past life or an entity or the higher self, the holy guardian angel or holy daemon, which is something that we discussed with Y King, however many weeks ago when we recorded that, and it should release before this one releases. Um, but yeah, just like many different things. But in terms of a quote unquote place, the Akashic records in of themselves being where all these sorts of memories and data is stored. So in that regard, um, for when it comes to the Akashic records and tapping into that through meditation, do you guys have any sort of thoughts on that? And having done so and sharing of those practices or experiences, either generally or if there's specific ones that come to mind you're comfortable in sharing.
Hmm.
You got some done, sir? Mulling it over.
I'm kind of just like thinking. Sorry, thinking
Oh
aloud
no,
with
you're
my
good.
humming.
Oh no, you're good. Nah, dude, you're all good. But just general topic of the Akashic records. Anyone got anything additional, or you think that was good enough to cover that particular aspect of things?
With Akashic Records, I mean, Akashic Records and your own memory slash mind palace, I do believe are intricately interconnected. So really, it's just the one connecting to the all. Um, it's that's really hard to pin down, and I do believe everyone's going to have a very individualized experience with them.
Hmm.
Yes. So the file storage system, the for lack just to go ahead and relate the microcosm with the macrocosm in terms of modern technology, the hard drive of the universe or the multiverse or however many aspects of existence need be addressed or referred to and all that.
Hmm.
Let's see. What about you, like? Got anything when it comes to the Akashic records?
Um, Honestly, I don't really have anything to like add to it. I just have like personal experience that I kind of want to keep my to myself, honestly.
Oh, understandable. Yes. And Dunster, did you have anything that you were able to formulate on the subject itself before we go on to another sort of thing?
For me specifically, I know my way to the Akashic records would be Reiki, since that is tied into it. But I don't know. Just thinking about it, I had like a weird sensation that maybe my Akashic records won't have like extreme details. For me, I just saw like dates and times and location of where you are on the Earth. So i- the location of where you are on Earth would have to do with space, and with us being on this three-dimensional plane, that would inquire time as well. And just based off the energy within your aura, this is going to, I guess, make your experience within that energy field. Maybe my Akashic records won't have the details, just where I'll be and when,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
which is definitely a personal thought. That's not for everybody.
Oh yes. Yes. And you might went ahead and mentioned Reiki, which of course, generally speaking, is just one manner, one school, or one method of utilizing energy work, right? Performing energy work and all sort of thing. And, you know, through meditation, one can go ahead and perform energy work in general. So I guess we can go ahead and look at it in that sort of lens next of like, all right, so meditation in doing energy work. Anyone got anything for that?
Meditation in terms of doing energy work. Really, I think that anybody that is an energy worker in and of themselves, um, they kind of slip into a working meditative state while they are performing the action. Be it magic, like doing spell work, Reiki, energy work of any kind, even your angel invocations. You do kind of slip into this um, mode of being that's not necessarily all the way on the bridge between, but very much close there.
Oh yes, yes. I guess to put it like that, like not necessarily going ahead and like being completely 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but dipping a few toes in.
Yes.
Oh yes. What about you, like in terms of a meditation and performing energy work through those means?
Oh man, I love energy work. It's honestly a really fun practice for me. Like, um, I don't know exactly which part of energy work I should talk on. Oh,
Whatever comes to mind, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever comes to mind, whatever you feel is pertinent or that you're comfortable sharing.
well, I'm trying to keep it towards the basic, like end of meditation for like energy work. So I'll go ahead and tie it into like the grounding meditation. Um, so with the root form of the meditation, whenever you have the roots going down, you can visualize the energy flowing flowing through the roots to in order for them to reach the core of the earth. And once they reach that, you can just allow the energy from the core of the earth to travel back up through you and kind of like go through the chakras and then up and out the crown, as if it's like the tree trunk, like like the trunk of the tree growing past the body and outside of it, and just becoming more than just your body. And that's, you kind of let it you kind of just let your energy cycle through that pattern while focusing on it, and it'll clear up a lot. Like, it will do a cleansing process on your body, along with helping you actually generate more energy within yourself. I mean, energy can't be created nor destroyed, but it's like a generating process.
Oh yes. All about transformation, all about transference.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Changing of itself being the only constant. All that good old stuff. Dunster, I know that for you, you probably don't necessarily want to talk too much about Reiki because I know how much of a sacredness that you regard Reiki in terms of the particular practices, but in general, just energy work through the means of meditation. What are your 2 cents with that?
Um, as for working for myself personally, I usually use energy work for physical comfort. That is if I'm not healing someone else, of course. Uh, Most of my healings aren't necessarily Reiki, so what I can say about, I guess, energy work as a whole is like when you finally clear that negative energy, there's quite literally empty space within your aura, and this gives you more energy, like Light was saying, but this energy can be tied right back into something negative if you can't get over that. There's a lot of like cycling and just traumas to be released, and a way to not let that energy go towards something negative is to try to reinforce the positive things in your life before it has a chance to go towards those other situations. Like, yeah,
Damn straight.
you might end up getting over the fact that, like, let's say you stop hanging out with a friend, and then it's like, okay, good, I got rid of this negative aspect in my life, but now you have more time. You might spend this at home, and depending on where you are, your home might be something you view as a negative space to be within. So yes, you did get rid of something negative, but now something else that is negative is even more magnified within your life.
Oh yes. Damn straight. Um
So yeah, the
yeah,
cleansing and appreciating the good.
Mm-hmm.
oh yes, most definitely. Let's see. Does anyone else have anything additional to add on to energy work before going on to another facet, another bullet point?
I'm tapped out on that one.
Okay. Um okay, so yeah. Let's see. Oh yes, yes. This one I'm not gonna lie, I've had it on like I typed it down quite a while ago in the discussion. But so earlier on, we mentioned utilizing visualizations, not just like the visualizations that can be received when doing different types of meditations, but utilizing visualizations in of themselves, using your imagination to spur on different meditative states and experiences. But not only just utilizing something within, the mind's eye, as you call it, but actual like pictures, visuals in of themselves in doing so. And in particular, before we go to like any sort of like general sense, I did want to go ahead and cover sigils and yantras, and all sort of thing. And people are here in the US and who are more so of like the Western sort are probably gonna be more so familiar with the concept of sigils than they are yantras. But yantras are pretty much more so of a Eastern sigil, you could say. Um, but yeah, so do you guys happen to utilize sigils at all when trying to bring about a particular meditative experience, or not?
I do not.
I do not as well.
I have before. But that's more so in terms of not going into like a meditative state just for, cleansing or anything like that, but going into it for a specific purpose. Like uh, going in for personal like shadow work or things of that nature, where I am like quite literally bringing like an angel with me to help me fight my own personal demons at that moment. Um, so yes, I have utilized them before. It can be extremely effective, um, but I would say it's probably one of those hit or miss kind of things.
Oh yes, and that you initially, of course, have to be open and receptive to the particular sigil, the particular yantra, the particular symbol that you were going ahead and
Yeah,
interfacing with.
Hmm.
Yes.
that ties into like earlier what I said about mantras. Like you can say something as many times as you want, but it doesn't really matter until you believe it and appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh yes. And I will say this that um, so when doing group prayer invocations, all this sort of thing, as you guys well know, I like to go ahead and keep notes of people's experiences that they're willing to share, and um, all that sort of thing. When we're kind of like
He admitted
discussing
it.
after. Well, hey, look, like no, like okay, oh, yeah, I admit it when I literally go ahead and like say, oh, what your guys' experiences and all that sort of thing. Oh yeah, I'm taking notes and all that. Like, but now like one thing that I myself have noticed at times, as well as other people, including you guys at various points, or maybe at various points, have noted of like particular sigils, like saying like calling upon different like entities and all that, kind of like go ahead and start to behave weirdly or abstractly. Like say in some cases like sigils pulsing or
Yes.
something like that, or like emanating a particular color light, even though we're going ahead and looking at them like through like phone screens, and like either it could be like at least in those particular instances, like it being like a black on white or white on black sort of thing. Like for some reason you start seeing like the color like red or like a yellow or it looks like a rainbow like thing coming out of it. It's like, oh, what the hell? Why is it doing this?
Oh no, that one's
So
easy.
like
I could tell you that. That's because you're already pulling the energy of whatever entity that is calling. And of course, we can sit here and be like, Archangel Michael is, this color, but we are going to interpret the colors a whole lot different than one another. So,
Yes.
oh yes.
Regardless of
Um
what energy is currently in front of you, we are still human. We have our biological wiring as well. You may see something that is, I guess, blue, and the wiring in my brain might be messed up, and I may be colorblind. I'm like, that's not blue, this is gray.
oh,
And
absolutely.
we're both right.
Yep.
You can make personal sigils as well. Like, of course, you can Google stuff, but once you get deep enough into meditation to where you recognize you are channeling, you can choose to try to bring forth emotions and just let your mind wander with what that symbol may look like. And now you got your own custom symbols. You don't got to learn nothing from nobody. And you got your own starter pack.
Absolutely.
yep.
Your own Pokemon cards. Gotta collect them all.
Hmm. The whole
Gotta catch
Pokédex.
'em all.
Yes.
Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon.
Oh no, we're gonna get copyright strike just for that.
Oh Lord of mercy.
Yeah, that sounded
That
too
would be
accurate.
I know.
that would be way too OD right there if that were to happen.
That'd be
I believe it.
hilarious.
I believe the rule is that as long as it's under 10 seconds, you can't actually get copyright for it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Oh yeah, but
Okay.
but yeah.
The one thing I will,
Imagine. Imagine Nintendo going ahead and have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Imagine, like, out of all the things in the world, this little conversation on, like, this at present not too big of a YouTube channel, but as time goes on, hopefully we can be as expansive as possible. But in any case, um, you know, um, yeah, imagine Nintendo actually having a problem with that.
I don't know. It'd be funny. It'd be funny.
Oh yeah.
Wear it like a badge of pride.
Oh,
Can we just call this a podcast at this point?
Pretty much. I mean,
hell yeah.
we're
We're an
at
hour in, yeah.
an hour and 40 minutes.
Hey,
Oh
if
yeah.
you didn't listen to me 30 minutes ago, you better like and subscribe at this point. It's been an hour.
Okay,
Hey,
you
man,
said
if you
that. You
watch
said
this much of a podcast, you have to like it. Like
oh,
2
yeah.
hours. You're 2 hours deep right now. You might as well.
Unless you're like skimming it, unless you're like skimming like a vinyl record or something like that, kind of like jumping on different places on the record with a needle and all that sort of thing.
I mean, if you're gonna do that through a 2 hour long video, you're still gonna be there for like a good 20 minutes just doing that.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah for
So
sure.
you might as well. Like, come on, it's like 2 extra seconds.
Oh yeah.
Oh
But I do
And it's
believe we
free.
have pretty much run the course of, very beginner terms of meditation. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
I would have liked to
Oh,
touch up a little bit more on the shadow work end, but yeah.
go for it.
Absolutely.
for it.
Go for it.
Oh. Oh man.
He wasn't ready.
You bring
Oh,
it up,
no,
let's go.
Oh man. Because like I literally wrote down like a few notes. Like literally a few notes, and we touched on everything except for shadow work really.
Then speak on it, bro.
Yes.
But yeah, so like uh from my personal experience with shadow work, what I usually do is I bring up something that was traumatic in my past, or like any type of memory that would link to it. Like there's points in time where I have like a little bit of amnesia about the whole situation. Um but that's something that the mind does almost all the time anyways.
Mm-hmm. Protective
So
mechanisms.
I'll try to find like a grounding point in that memory to bring it back to like the forefront of my mind, and I will pretty much force myself to relive it and let it go as I'm reliving it and allow it to work itself out, and kind of just allow that part of myself that was in that situation to reintegrate with my own personality as it is today.
Oh
And
yes, and
that's my
so
process.
Oh, absolutely.
yep. Meditation definitely is useful for when it comes to going ahead and finding pieces of yourself within your subconscious that you in fact need to go ahead and integrate. So it's not necessarily being a hindrance to you, but you can work in a symbiotic manner, in a collaborative manner. One example being like the usage of anger, right? For people who tend to get angry quite often, like certain things go ahead and it elicits that angry response, and in kind of like figuring out, all right, what exactly is that brings me to that place of anger. You can go ahead and control that more so, and obviously to make it to where you don't necessarily get angry from said things if it's not necessarily warranted, or in situations where anger is needed and is warranted to get a point across, or to stop someone from doing something negative, explicitly negative to someone else, then utilizing those particular moments for the benefits, or the general overall benefit of yourself and or others, as well as even the individual that's being addressed as well. Um, but yes, so I guess utilizing meditation for shadow work, or just the nature of shadow work in of itself, Devi or Dunster, you guys got anything for that?
I mean,
I
and
don't.
you don't.
The shadow confuses me still, so.
I got you. No, I mean, in terms of shadow work, what I find is it's more addressing those aspects of yourself. And everyone on the channel has heard me say, like, don't push things down, don't push things away, because all it does is like make it come back like 10 times harder, right? Um, and that's almost one of those quote mantras, unquote, that you will hear me say all the freaking time. Um, Especially when I am assisting somebody with magic or um, through any kind of magical being or magical means, because a lot of our trauma is stored in emotions. And Light, you are absolutely correct. There are aspects of our mind that will create amnesia around it as a protective measure. So going into meditation, um, the only thing that I would say in terms of shadow work, if you are going to use meditation for it, is put a boundary up first and tell your subconscious, as you are kind of releasing and going into that surrendered state, show me only what I need to know right now, um, and not something that will trigger me. And I say trigger, I know it's one of those buzz terms, but as somebody with PTSD, like diagnosed, like it is a real thing. It absolutely is a real thing. Um, so, as long as you are going into those states, make sure if you do have some really heavy baggage, it may not be something that you do alone. Um, it may be something that you do with a licensed therapist, and that is okay. Asking for help is okay. And I would highly recommend it. But there are a lot of uh, psychiatric and therapeutic practices that actually utilize um, meditative practices as well. I'm trying to remember the particular treatment for PTSD, but it actually utilizes like the rapid eye movement, and going back through traumatic experiences, um, and then almost like reprogramming them to where you have a lessened reaction to them. One of my dear friends actually went through that, and as as bad as it was, like the day after the treatments, seeing her start to glow and smile and live again was a very beautiful experience. So I mean, meditation, it's extremely useful in those, but recognize there are points where you may not want to do it on your own in terms of your shadow work.
If I'm not mistaken, the isn't one of the ways they. Oh wait. Oh shit! I literally lost it.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's I know there's a therapy for certain types of trauma
Hmm.
and PTSD, and it's some sort of, I can't remember the exact word for it, but what they pretty much do is they put you around the same type of environment to lessen the effect of it towards yourself. So it's like a
Exposure therapy.
yes, there we go, exposure therapy.
The
That's like
Yeah.
the way that they do it, but for like certain cases of PTSD, I know that there's like a more serious version of that where they actually have to like do the internal work, or uh like there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. But for the less severe cases, they usually just use exposure therapy, and they can just uh work it out from there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember what the treatment is called now because it's driving me up the wall. This is what I get for not being good with names. Um, but
Hey, I'm not good with words. Yeah, I'm on a podcast.
Well, we should then go ahead and try to call freaking Hemisync, freaking semi hink or something like that, like I did before.
it's all good. Um, but I mean, shadow work, and self therapy with some of the more severe forms. Um, just like I said, make sure that you are putting yourself in a safe place to deal with those kinds of heavy emotions and recognize when you need help. That's really like that's the mom in me sitting here like please protect yourself.
Mhm. Of course,
Or the Michael Jordan meme of "Stop it, get some help."
Oh, that
always
too.
have a cuddle buddy with you.
Yes, always need one.
Whether it's a teddy bear, a pillow, whatever it is, like just make sure you keep that around, just so if you break down in tears at some point during it, because it is a very emotional process, that you have something to hold on to and just be comforted. Just sit in it and let it work itself out.
Yes, sir. Any more additional thoughts on shadow work in of itself before moving on to something else?
I think that we really covered almost all of it.
Okay. Well, I think I kind of gotta do this. If you're going ahead and doing shadow work, all that sort of thing, uh, definitely would help delve into Jungian psychology. Mr. Carl Gustav Jung, definitely a good individual to check out. And there's plenty of material out there by Mr. Jung, as well as many people who make content and stuff like that based off of his findings from yesteryear and all of that. Um, but yeah, so at least on my little list right here, um, the last sort of things that I have to go ahead and mention is that kind of like we've talked quite a bit about all these different aspects of meditation in of itself. Well, when getting into meditation, what is something we haven't necessarily talked all too much about, but it's kind of like the key, one of the key components of getting into a meditative state. A lot of times, that would be the breath work, and all that. So, in terms of that aspect of being able to get into that meditative state by observing the breath and doing breath work. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Okay. So personally, I would use like I don't know exact what the real name of it is, but I call it like the 4 second square breath. Um,
Fourfold.
Yes, the fourfold breath. Yes.
the fourfold. There we go. I never could remember it, but yeah, I prefer to do either the fourfold, Wim Hof breathing, or just completely just be aware of it and not try to control it at all. So, with the 4 second, with the four, dang, I really just forgot the name of
Fourfold.
fourfold.
Yep.
Right.
Fourfold breath. Yep.
Um, with the fourfold breath, you just take you breathe in for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you release it for 4 seconds, and then you hold it again for four, and you just do that process over and over again. I usually do it about 10 times, um, 10 times like in a row, and then take a breath, or take a break from it, and just be aware of how I'm breathing just naturally, letting my body work itself out. And then after sitting there for about like a minute, 2 minutes or so, then I'll go back into it and I'll do that. I'll do 3 reps of repetitions of that, um, in 10 times each set. Jeez, I'm so bad with words.
Oh no,
It's
you're
all
good,
good.
man. You're good.
Whew.
What about you, Dunster?
For breath work, a good little method that I have is completely emptying my lungs of all air, and then from there, I'll basically focus on sections of my stomach and my chest. I'll start at the bottom of my stomach and become very aware of the parts that aren't receiving air. So basically, like I said, you empty out all the air, you start to breathe in, get comfortable with what you realize you can feel so far, and then with every breath in, try to expand the air up into those spaces where you feel you're lacking the air. That's a good way of like healing, I guess, and Yeah.
I fully agree, and that's actually about the same of what I do because I find I have too much lung capacity for the four-fold breath.
Mm.
I I am full of hot air, so what I will do is just about the same as you, Dunster, is I will breathe until I cannot take in any more breath. And then from there, it's like a very slow release until I cannot exhale anymore. Um, and
Mhm.
then that refilling. I know one of the terms that I use a lot is like breathe until you feel like your stomach is going to pop like a balloon, but you're going to feel your ribs expand, you're going to feel your back expand, you're going to feel your stomach expand, but you're breathing low into your body. Um, and I find that one, as you are aware of not only the incoming breath but the outgoing breath, because it's a longer process instead of just like timing it almost like an army march, or a military march. You're a lot more flowy with it.
Mhm. Yeah, the 444 method kind of messes with me as well. So that's why I found that method.
Absolutely.
I just smoke too much.
yeah,
That's why I do it. If I'm being honest, the only reason why I would do the Wim Hof instead of what you guys are talking about is literally just because like my lung capacity is not the greatest. I really need to stop smoking at some point. It's just I just don't feel like doing it, you know?
Understandable. You do what you
Like,
gotta do, my dude. No
I'm
judgment.
healthy in like almost every other regard. It's just I'm like, okay, let me just keep one guilty pleasure, you know? But the one guilty pleasure that I kept is like one of the few ones I really should have gotten rid of. So,
hey man, different strokes for different folks.
Hmm.
Mm.
But yeah, when it comes to breath work and all sort of thing, you went ahead and you mentioned it before I could, late, but I'm glad that you did in whole fourfold breath. I was actually going to go ahead and uh, read the very little excerpt from Damien Eccles' High Magic, which I recommend y'all going ahead and listen to this if you haven't checked it out, whether you are a beginner, and it's definitely very beginner friendly, or even towards those who have experience in different spiritual, magical, esoteric, all these different sorts of like avenues, practices, just, theories, having that frame of mind, whatever. Definitely a good book to go ahead and check out. But truth be told, you already went ahead and covered the fourfold breath in essence, and I'm not going to go ahead and read that particular excerpt, but I still recommend checking out High Magic by Damien Eccles. Um, but what I will say is that with the fourfold breath, it's just a template. It's just a template, in any sort of time measurement for it happens to work, or no time measurement at all. It's just observing that you're going ahead and breathing at whatever rate or whatever duration is appropriate for you. So, you mentioned because you smoke, the whole Wim Hof sort of breathing method doesn't necessarily work. And it's like, all right, cool. Not everybody's got to go ahead and do the Wim Hof, and all sort of thing. Or not everybody's got to do the particular 4 seconds for the fourfold breath or what have you, but everybody's got their own rate. Everybody's got their own thing.
Hmm.
Once
yeah,
again, different strokes for different folks.
sorry about that. But yeah, I
Oh,
usually use the Wim Hof method, but um, any day that like my lungs just feel like absolute crap from smoking, yeah, I just do the fourfold breath. Because I'm
oh
not really
yes.
trying to put myself in pain while I'm trying to get into a meditative state. Yeah.
And I'll take this opportunity to go ahead and mention not only those two particular methods that are easily searchable, to go ahead and check out, but there's also the Isha Kriya method of getting into a meditative sort of state and or doing breath work. That's by Sadhguru. And also, in terms of a meditation, it's a little more specific in focus. Our buddy Lono here within the friend group and on the channel, he has a particular void meditation for kind of like delving into, the subconscious, the inner aspects of oneself that back when we were discussing the topic of void, I believe that was number 17 um, in the series of videos. Um, he went ahead and spoke about that generally in of itself, and I know that he has discussed potentially going ahead and doing a guided meditation for that to be shared on channel at some point. So we shall see if that comes to fruition. But um, aside from that, I think that's me going ahead and exhausting my list of things and all that. Oh, the one thing left is earlier on I did say that I was gonna go ahead and mention the name of that Selkie Girl album, um, and all that once I found the name, and I did in fact find that. So, for a particular musical album to go ahead and potentially listen to that could spur on meditative and spiritual sort of experiences, it is called For the Profane by Selkie Girl. So yeah, it's available out there, YouTube, Bandcamp, wherever. Go ahead and check it out for yourself and see if it works for you. But I think that's pretty much it for me in terms of all the stuff I was jotting down throughout this. So yeah, is everyone else pretty much tapped out on their lists and all that for the present moment?
Yeah, all I have left on my list is literally just active meditation, which is literally what it says, you know.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
oh yes.
I've got a quick one, a really quick one.
Okay.
So, yes, we've been going on about 2 hours now with all these different methods of meditation, but the most important fact of all is finding the balance. If you're a beginner, it's cool to like go head first into all this stuff and try to practice what you've learned here tonight, but it's easy to get lost into something and to literally start neglecting the needs of your body and your spirit. You got to find the things that are physically good for you and the things that I guess make you happy, things that uplift your spirit, because there's been a lot that has been poured into everyone's mind tonight. So yeah, stay balanced with all this information.
Oh yeah.
Don't be afraid to watch this back and
Yes.
just like get a refresh on it. Or maybe since it is a beginner thing, I would say personally, I would take this bit by bit. Like practice one thing, like pick one thing out of these conversations, work on it for about at least a week, give it a week or two, um, and then go ahead, come back here, pick out another thing, and just kind of rinse and repeat if you feel so pleased to, until, or if you feel comfortable doing your own thing after doing like one or two things that we said here, by all means go for it. Just be careful.
Absolutely. Just as long as you are conscious of how you are reacting to the meditative practice and you are, of course, in control versus um, allowing things to kind of devolve into chaos, I think everything should be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess all I gotta say in regards to I guess a capstone is live long and prosper. There you go. Let's go with that.
There you go.
That sounds wonderful. All right, so I think we are all completely tapped out at this point. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Damn
right.
straight.
Whew.
All right, so it has been a pleasure talking about meditations. I am, of course, Devi. We have Dunster, Light, and
Oh,
Twisted.
oh wait, before
Uh
we
oh.
we go ahead and close things out.
Oh.
Shill time. Yeah,
Oh
shill
yes,
time for both
shill
of these
time.
folks. Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
So yes, Dunster, you got your YouTube channel because I know for a fact that if I don't mention it, you may not go ahead and mention yourself. Yes, I am Mr. Peer Pressure when it comes to you on that regard.
Check me out on YouTube. The name's Dunster, Dunnster. My face is, I think my picture is like my face with like the galaxy behind me or something like that, some like Photoshop thing. Check it out.
And you, Light.
I don't have any social medias at the moment. I may be making a YouTube channel here in the next upcoming months. I'll probably just play video games every now and then probably post some things about meditation and like some, more along the lines of like how tos and everything. Just like because we talked a lot about meditation, um, but like personally, whenever I listen to a podcast about like a certain topic, like every now and then, like a little bit of information on how to do it is like very beneficial as well. So, that's where like my mind is going. Like I could definitely like just have like a technically like a one-on-one thing with viewers with just teaching them how to do or how to get into those states.
Absolutely. And once you create that and have things going, we will put that in the description box so that, we have more friends of the channel
All
as
right,
well.
thank you.
Yes.
It's very much appreciated.
So yeah.
All right. Am I allowed to close it out now?
Oh yeah. Go ahead and do your thing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us at the Open Resourcery. I'm Devi. I've got Twisted, I've got Dunster, and I've got
Yo.
Light. And
Yep.
it has been a long ass conversation. So have a great night, you guys.
Stay
Nice.
frosty, niggas. Peace.
Peace out.
Stay defrosty.